how do some of the biggest MLB superstars become the most hated and controversial players in baseball? Well, whether it be actions on or off the field, it only takes one mistake to end up banned, blacklisted, or even arrested. Starting off with Wander Franco, who went from being MLB's next superstar to facing some of the most severe allegations in MLB history. In 2017, Franco was signed by the Tampa Bay Rays when he was only 16 years old. However, he wouldn't start getting attention until he made his debut 4 years later. In 2021, he ended up placing third in Rookie of the Year votes, despite only playing in 70 games. So, to no one's surprise, the Rays opened up the checkbook. In November of that same year, the Rays signed Franco to a massive contract worth $182 million. But this deal was extremely risky for multiple reasons. First off, Franco had yet to play a full season in the majors, and sometimes players fall off pretty hard after only a few years. However, looking back, that would end up being the least of the Rays' concerns, because after only 2 seasons, their newest star would be the center of one of the biggest controversies in recent years. On August 13th of 2023, Wander Franco was accused on social media of being in a relationship with a minor, which is obviously a pretty serious allegation, and he wasted no time denying this on Instagram Live, saying that people don't know what to do with their time. They don't know what they're talking about. However, on August 22nd, he was placed on administrative leave, while both MLB and the Dominican Republic began official investigations. But things would only get worse from here. Only a week later, a second complaint was filed against Franco for another relationship with a different minor. As a result, Dominican authorities summoned him to a meeting with a prosecutor and even showed up at his house, but Franco was nowhere to be found. And the same was true until January 3rd, 2024, when news broke that he had been arrested for a week after being interviewed about the situation. Now, the details of that interview are not public, but it's not looking good for Franco. As of recording this video, there's been no official charges, but it's very possible that he might never play another game in MLB. And for a while, the same thing could be said about Trevor Bauer, because at the height of his career, he was met with the longest suspension in MLB history. But to really understand why this happened, we have to go back to 2009. After graduating from high school, Bauer attended UCLA and joined their baseball team alongside one of the top prospects in baseball, Garrett Cole. But it was pretty evident that these two did not get along. This was mainly because Bauer chose to work out on his own instead of with the team, using a program that he made himself. So only a few weeks after they became teammates, Cole apparently told Bauer in front of the entire team that he had no future in baseball. Which, of course, turned out to be false, as he was drafted 3rd overall in the 2011 MLB draft, just 2 picks behind Cole. However, as you can imagine, Bauer's unorthodox personality and methods were met with a similar reaction when he made it to MLB. He signed with the Diamondbacks for a bonus of $7 million, but almost immediately faced backlash from coaches, players, and even the front office. Before games, he would spend over an hour doing his own routine, and part of that was long toss from over 400 feet away. It was things like this that made him an outsider, and even his teammates said that it was like having 24 players plus Trevor. But instead of apologizing, Bauer embraced it, saying that "I'm not afraid to be disliked. I've been disliked a majority of my life." So as you can imagine, he didn't stay on the Diamondbacks for long. Towards the end of 2013, he was traded to the Indians, where he would stay for the next 6 years. Now, outside of some controversial tweets, he was able to avoid the spotlight for the most part and just focus on baseball. That is, until July 28th of 2019, when he gave up 7 runs in 5 innings and threw a ball over the center field wall. Now, he did apologize after the game, but just 3 days later, he was traded to the Reds, where his career in baseball would take a massive turn. By the end of the 2020 season, Bauer led MLB with a 1.73 ERA through 11 starts, ultimately beating out Yu Darvish and even Jacob deGrom for the Cy Young. So naturally, he was set to sign a massive contract in free agency. And sure enough, Bauer agreed to a 3-year deal with the Dodgers worth $102 million, which at the time was the highest annual salary in MLB history. However, all of it was about to be stripped away almost overnight. On July 2nd, 2021, he was placed on administrative leave by MLB after a woman accused him of assault. Now, as you would expect, Bauer immediately denied all accusations, stating that they were, quote, baseless and defamatory. However, things only got worse in August when he was once again accused of assault by a different woman. He ended up missing the rest of his first season as a Dodger, and people started to wonder if he would ever play for MLB again. But things just kept getting worse. Despite facing no criminal charges, MLB suspended Bauer for 324 games, which is still the longest suspension in MLB history. And not to mention, a third accuser came forward on that same day. So at this point, things were really not looking good for Bauer. However, he still made a tweet denying the allegations and said that he would appeal the suspension, which surprisingly sort of worked. In December of 2022, his suspension was reduced to 194 games, meaning that he was now officially reinstated and permitted to play in MLB. But while this was a big deal, there was still a major issue. At this point, his reputation among the baseball community was pretty much destroyed. And as a result, on January 6th of 2023, the Dodgers released Bauer, despite owing him $22.5 million for the season. Now, this did mean that any team could sign the former Cy Young winner for just $700,000. But as you can probably guess, nobody did. He was simply too controversial, and teams didn't want to take that risk. So with no other options left, Bauer decided that he had to move on from MLB. And sure enough, on March 13th of 2023, Bauer made the announcement that he would be playing the upcoming season in Japan, which might have been the best decision he could have made. Almost immediately after joining the team, he became one of the most popular players in Japan, and thousands of fans would show up to games just for him. However, when it came to actually pitching, he started off pretty rough. In his first 3 starts, Bauer gave up 14 runs in just 15 innings for an ERA of 8.4. But many fans came to his defense, pointing out that he had not pitched in a professional setting since 2021, so he needed some time to readjust. And it turns out that they were right. After an amazing performance in June, he was named an All-Star, and by the end of the season, he was 10-4 with a 2.76 ERA. But obviously, Bauer never planned to stay in Japan forever, especially after the progress he'd made in repairing his reputation. In October of 2023, he was able to settle the lawsuit between him and his first accuser. And while he's still in the middle of a different lawsuit regarding the fourth, it seems like he's finally starting to move on, based on a response in a YouTube video he posted after reaching the settlement.
Now, over the last 2 years, I've been forced to defend my integrity and my reputation in a very public setting. But hopefully this is the last time I have to do so, as I'd prefer to just remain focused on doing my job, winning baseball games and entertaining fans around the world. So today, I'm happy to be moving on with my life.
He's made it known that he wants to return to MLB, saying that I want to make things right and do things better. I think I'm one of the best pitchers in the world, and talent-wise, I deserve to play in the MLB. As of February 2024, he's currently a free agent with the ability to sign wherever he wants. So the only question now is whether or not any MLB teams are willing to take that risk. But Trevor Bauer is not the only superstar in recent years who made headlines for all of the wrong reasons. Because only a year after signing the 3rd largest contract in MLB history, Fernando Tatis Jr. would ruin his reputation forever. In 2016, he was traded to the San Diego Padres, and over the next couple years, he would become the number 2 prospect in all of baseball. So it was no surprise that when he was just 20 years old, he made his debut as the starting shortstop on opening day. Now, over the next few months, Tatis Jr. would take over the world of baseball. And despite suffering a back injury that would end his season after only 84 games, he finished 3rd in Rookie of the Year votes. Next season, he would have another solid year, putting up an OPS of 937 and coming 4th in National League MVP votes. So it was no surprise that in early 2021, he signed a deal with the Padres worth $340 million. And just like that, Tatis Jr. was an MLB superstar. However, it wouldn't take long before everything went wrong. On August 12th, 2022, MLB announced that Tatis Jr. had received an 80-game suspension for steroid use, more specifically, a performance-enhancing drug known as clostebol. This was devastating news for MLB, as their biggest star was now under the spotlight for all of the wrong reasons. But according to him, it was all an accident. On the same day he was suspended, Tatis Jr. released a statement explaining what happened. And apparently, he didn't realize that one of his medications contained clostebol, so it was entirely unintentional. Now, whether or not that's true is up for debate. But either way, this was massively disappointing for not only the fans, but also the baseball community in general. Because despite only having played 2 partial seasons, Tatis Jr. had essentially made himself into the face of MLB. However, despite apologizing several times, a large amount of players and fans were not happy when he made his eventual return. In April of 2023, he began making his way back to baseball through a rehab assignment in AAA. But unsurprisingly, he was almost immediately met with backlash. During his second game back, he hit his first home run in over a year, which for him was a big step forward. However, the opposing pitcher was not impressed. After the game, the pitcher replied to a video of the home run on Twitter, calling out Tatis Jr. for being a cheater. And this kind of response would only continue after his official return to MLB. If you look under pretty much any MLB post about Tatis Jr., a majority of the replies you'll see are about his new reputation as a cheater. Now, whether or not this response is deserved, it's to be expected, and I'm not sure if it'll ever go away. But for now, Tatis Jr. is trying to get back to his former self, and finally moving on from the biggest mistake of his career.